No, I guess not.
He's here now.
Vikings win 5 in a row to end the season. 16-3 over the Packers.
Yeah.
I know you like that.
I do enjoy that because it keeps the people to the east a little bit quieter.
Yeah.
And hopefully after a loss next week, it puts them on silent for the winter.
Yeah.
But we've got our own issues to discuss here.
Already?
Already? Well, okay. What do you want to say about today? You were at the stadium. What did you walk out of there with? Were you excited, pumping your fist, doing the skull chant, or what did you come away with?
No shade to the guys on the field today, but Don Mitchell and myself looked at each other, and Don said, "This kind of reminds me of a preseason game." And I said, "You'd be absolutely correct." The backup, Max Bros were in for the Vikings. They had their starters in because they were, chasing stats a little bit there, and they were going up against 2s and 3s from the Green Bay Packers, and it was a snooze fest today. It was hard to stay awake. I drank a lot of Mountain Dews today during the game. Nonetheless, though, the Vikings won and finished the season on a 5-game winning streak.
Pierre?
Mountain Dews, he's starting to turn into you.
I am.
That's the way to go. Whenever you're bored, grab a dew.
Wait, was the question about the game?
Yeah, thoughts on the game first.
Well, listen. I mean, defensively, this team for the second half of the season has been as good as it gets. Find me a better defensive unit across the National Football League that has been better than Brian Flores' defensive unit. When he's been healthy, Andrew Van Ginkel has been sensational. When he's been healthy, Blake Cashman has been sensational. This group
Grenard, same thing.
Well, who that? What's
Grenard, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't say sensational this year. He had a lot of missed sacks. He would probably tell you he was good but not great.
The two pillars that I want to mention too on defense, pillars might be a little bit strong, but the two names that jump out to me on defense this season, Jalen Redmond has been about as good as it gets for the season. He very well could have been their most consistent and most productive player on defense all season long. And I am very pleased to see that we have taken a big step forward with Dallas Turner from year 1 to year 2. It's not all the way there yet, but Dallas Turner is absolutely heading in the right direction. You had a very good season out of Dallas Turner. That's what you wanted to see going into year 2. Because I think in the offseason, we really weren't sure what we were getting with Dallas Turner because he was stuck behind Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard in his rookie season. Didn't get as much time as I'm sure he probably had hoped for in his rookie year. But a lot of good production from Dallas Turner this year. I mean, that's really my takeaway. 2 sacks on the day for Dallas Turner today in the finale. That's really my takeaway, really, from this game for sure, is this defense continues to play lights out.
I think that's the one bright spot of this season is that the last 2 years, so years 1 and 2 of Flores' regime, the defense slid, wasn't as good at the end of the season as it was at the start of the season. This year was a reverse. That defense got better as the season aged. And I think that really is why Brian's stock has risen so much, because last year, 2 years ago, right, it was the Cincinnati game on Christmas where the Bengals figured out a way to expose that blitz and lit him up, and then everybody else did the rest of the way. Last year, the last 2 games, granted, the offense didn't help things, but the defense wasn't as lights out as you needed it to be to advance. This year, as bad as the offense got, week by week by week, worse and worse, that defense got better. They were ridiculously good, and that's why I think Flores, his stock has risen to where it is. We'll hit on what he should do or what do you think the Vikings should do to keep him. But what does it say about the commitment of that defensive unit to, even though, like you said, it felt like a preseason game, they played it like there was something on the line. And they have done that throughout, even though they've been eliminated the last couple of weeks of the year.
Yeah, I asked them after that Dallas game when they, kept the Cowboys in check. And I said, what's your motto to finish this season? They said, if we can't go to the dance, then we're trying to spoil everybody else who
Exactly.
can. And they played like it. I think a huge credit goes back to what Pierre was just saying earlier. Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, both of those guys sustained injuries in week 1 of the season, and they both had to miss a number of games, like 5-6 games. That's when the Vikings defense struggled. As soon as they got back and the offense was competent and could stay on the field longer than 2 minutes and whatnot, then it was like, all right, now the defense they're not gassed, they're playing up to their potential, and I think you hit the nail on the head with Jalen Redmond and also Levi Drake Rodriguez. I think had they just said, you know what, we're not going to pay Jonathan Allen, we're not going to pay Javon Hargrave, and we're going to start Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez, and we're going to keep Harrison Phillips, I think they would have had the same impact had they not gone out and spent $60 million on those two guys that I just mentioned. But that being put that aside, this defense has lived up to their expectations towards the end of the year. They played with, a team full of pride. And we also have to mention that Harrison Smith didn't play a ton at the beginning of the season. He was playing 8 to 10 snaps a game because he missed all of training camp and preseason, and he had to get back in game shape. And so, I think when you look at this season, you look at the defensive numbers, you got to put an asterisk through weeks 1 through 9 because I feel like they didn't have their full unit. Once they got their full unit back and the offense was good enough, then we started seeing the potential play out.
All right, enough about that game.
Already, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I get you.
Yeah.
I get
Where are we going? What do you want to? There's so much here. We could spend 3 hours. We're trying to sort out.
Pick 18 or 19?
What
I
is?
think we haven't determined.
No,
yet.
it's determined. It's 18 or 19 now.
Right. So
Yeah. Mid.
you've slid back there. But what is priority one this offseason? Pierre, you go first.
Well, priority number one is you got to get your cap situation figured out. You've gone from 1 year last year of being giddy about all the cap room that you have, and now you're in cap hell. So you have to shake down some guys for money. You have to potentially release your veterans, some of your veterans, because you need to create some cap room because you need to figure out how you're going to pay another quarterback to come in here and compete for a job. That's the first thing I'm looking at right now. Outside of that, yeah, you corner, safety, these are positions that I think will be looked at in the draft and free agency. There's no question about it. But priority number one is for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to figure out how he's going to figure out his cap situation, who's going to get the axe, who's going to get shaken down for money. That's the first and foremost thing that needs to happen in the offseason.
But it seemed like that was why the Vikings didn't want to go in on Darnold, is because they didn't want to put themselves in a spot where, oh, geez, we're back into the cap mess again by paying a quarterback such an exorbitant amount. Yet then they went out and spent, $350 in free agency and then put themselves right back where they said they didn't want to be, Ahmad.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. They did spend a lot of money, but I think they also spent a lot of money because they thought they had a team that could compete for a Super Bowl if they had a quarterback that was just good enough. And obviously that wasn't the case this season for them. Where do they go? I mean, I think Pierre said it best. They need a cornerback. They need a safety. They also need some interior defensive linemen.
But what is number one? What has to change by next season for this team to be a playoff team again, to be a contender like they were 2 years ago for a Super Bowl, everybody thought? How do they circle back?
Healthy offensive line. Get a starting center. You need a starting center. That's where it starts offensively. I think Donovan Jackson played up to his potential being a first-round draft pick.
Yep.
Will Fry started to get comfortable.
Played
towards
every
the end
game.
of the season. Yep. I think you need to get Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill healthy. And if you get a starting center that can play 17 games, I think that's where it starts. I think you have to start with that offensive line. That's where the success stems from. You talk about not having a running game. Well, offensive line plays a huge part in that. And I also think they need to go get a speed threat running back. They need to get younger at the position. They need to get someone who's a little bit more durable than Aaron Jones. God bless his soul, but he gets injured every game he plays in here. So I think they need to go get a running back that has a burst that can provide some much needed speed on this offense, because as good as Justin Jefferson is, he's not a beat you over the top type of wide receiver anymore. Jordan Addison, he is that.
Or was the ball not there for him to go get?
Are
you saying that Jefferson is slowing down?
I'm not saying that, but Jefferson's not a burner. And I think you need a burner, and speed kills. You can't coach speed. You know what I'm saying? You can't develop that. You either
what do
have
you do
it or
with
you
Naylor? He's a free agent.
He's a good guy to keep around, but you just need speed everywhere. And they have speed in Naylor and Addison, But I think you
Do you
need it at
keep
the running
Addison?
backs.
That's another one.
Yeah,
Now
for
you got to
sure.
pick up that
you
extension.
You got to keep Addison.
I disagree. I disagree.
I
Don't
feel
know.
I feel like he opens
I
up a
don't
lot
know.
offensively.
Oh, yeah, no.
And he's a number one wide receiver on any other team that doesn't have Justin Jefferson. And so my thing is, when you are seeing two people take away Justin Jefferson, you're playing 10-on-9 elsewhere. That means one-on-one coverage for a lot of other wide receivers. Is Jalen Naylor going to win every single time? Maybe. Is Ty Felton going to win every time? Maybe. Who knows? We hadn't seen him play. But Jordan Addison is going to win. And I think that's essential for a Kevin O'Connell pass-happy offense. It's having two number one type receivers.
Neither of you mentioned the elephant in the room. J.J. McCarthy. You think that's fine?
I said you got to
he's-
spend money. You got to free up some money to bring your quarterback to come in here and compete.
And I think you got to find somebody to come push him. He was asked today if he thinks he's the starting quarterback for this team moving forward or earned the right to be the starting quarterback. He said, if you ask me today, yeah. He said, but nothing is promised tomorrow. He was like, so you got to go out there and earn it. I think he needs competition, though. It's what you guys both talked about this training camp, how
Right. I'm not
Darnold,
going to bring it up.
Jones,
I've brought it up a gazillion times.
I think,
go back and click on an old one if you want to know where I am on
I
that.
think he needs some competition this offseason, but you don't have a successful quarterback unless you have the guys up front. So I think that's where it starts, because Sam Darnold was 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, electrifying when he was here, but then got sacked 8 or 9 times versus the Rams in a game when it mattered most. So you need to start up front, I feel like, offensively and defensively.
All right. So you're fine, McCarthy and some other veteran, I'm assuming?
Depends on who the veteran is. It just depends on who the veteran is. I don't foresee them dipping their toe into the draft, although I wouldn't hate it. But the veteran route is, I think, where they have to go. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for Mac Jones, but Mac Jones is on a contract with the 49ers. You'd have to trade for him in the offseason.
Daniel Jones is a free agent again.
Daniel Jones is a free agent. He's coming off a major injury.
His leg is hanging over there in the closet.
It depends on who the veteran is going to be.
Let's frame it this way. How good does that veteran need to be? Like, do you feel if JJ goes down for some reason or is ineffective that this guy has to play at a level where it's an elite level or just an average level? What kind of backup? Because usually backups are guys that will try to just, what do they say, manage the offense. Mm-hmm. Could you get by with a game manager, or do we have to have someone that can really do the job if called upon?
You have to bring in someone with the intent of him being good enough to supplant J.J. McCarthy as the starter. Mm-hmm. That's who you have to target. Not saying that he absolutely has to supplant him as the starter, but he has to be as talented, if not more, than J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy needs to be looking over his shoulder every single day in the offseason and in training camp. He has to. Listen, this season is a complete failure. It has been a complete failure. Why? They didn't make the playoffs. Did the second-year quarterback inspire any type of confidence going into next year that he can be a franchise quarterback? No. The free agency spending has been swings and misses outside of perhaps Isaiah Rodgers. For the most part, the free agency signings and the free agency class has been unproductive. We just mentioned a moment ago, you're in cap hell. Number 5, too, the Christian Darrisaw situation was botched from the get-go. He was not healthy enough to come back. He came back too early. He was never at 100% the entire season, was in and out of the lineup, both before games and during games. And now you have to wonder if Christian Darrisaw is healthy enough to be the Christian Darrisaw that we have seen prior to this season for the rest of his career. This season has been an absolute disaster. There's nowhere else to put it. I mean, how else do you want to frame it? That's where this team is right now.
That's what I was hunting for.
Oh.
That's what I was hunting for.
That's where we
but
are.
It is. That's what I feel that the season was lost by the mismanagement or the decisions or lack thereof that set this team out of the gate at the start. When you didn't have a capable backup, now they end up missing the playoffs by what? A game?
A game.
Half game, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you had games where you went into it without a capable quarterback. Carson Wentz with the shoulder hanging on the ground, yet they made him start that game because they had no better option. You could find 2 or 3 games this year where if you had capable or adequate quarterback play, you probably would be a playoff team, and we'd be talking about, gee, we got to go to Philadelphia next week, or, oh, we're playing the Bears. We've already beat them once this year. We got a shot, especially the way the defense is playing right now. And so, to me, if I was a player in that locker room, I would have a very empty feeling in my guts about what transpired this year and the chance we were given to be a successful team.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell said it best after the game. He said it sucks. Like, watching the playoffs this year will sting a little bit more. He said because this team deserves to be in the tournament. Had they not given up that long kick return to Devin Duvernay versus the Bears and beat them at home, this is a team that, had they won today, probably had a chance to win the NFC North. So yeah, and he said it. I asked him, what did you learn best? What did you learn most about yourself this season? He said that every little play matters from week 1 through week 18. He was like, whether it's in a first quarter play, a defensive snap, a special team snap, he said all those things come back into factor in week 18, like now. So it's like you're talking about 1 or 2, 3 different plays, and this team could be in the playoffs. So tough. But yeah, Pierre said it best. Like, this was a team that everyone was talking about. Like Harrison Smith said, he came back because they felt like they had something to play for this season. Everybody thought that they were contenders for a Super Bowl this year. People thought they were going to win the NFC North this year. All they needed was J.J. McCarthy to be better than good, and he wasn't. And so that's something where you scratch your head heading into the offseason. Here we are.
Right, quarterback, right back where we were a year ago.
Quarterback storylines. It's been that way since I've gotten here. I've been here for 4 years. Every year was Kirk Cousins. Do they keep him? Do they pay him? Then it was like, all right, do we let him walk? Yeah, we let him walk. Then we bring Sam Darnold in. Oh, then they let him walk. Oh, well, we got the next guy. And it's like, here we go again.
Don't try to complain to me about what it's been like with quarterbacks here for this franchise, okay? You have a window. You now have a taste. I
have a little taste now.
But I could go over the Josh Freeman. I could go through a lot of quarterbacks.
Hey, look, I was a St. Louis Rams fan. I kind of understand your misery a little bit.
Exactly.
But no, disappointing year for the Vikings because they had much higher expectations. Everyone around that organization had high expectations, and they didn't live up to it.
That's what it is because, they put the money on the table. Like you said, they thought they were going to the Super Bowl. So they thought what they saw in J.J. McCarthy was good enough to be there. And, if you take the injuries out, how much more would he have developed, right? If he didn't miss the 6 games with the high ankle sprain, how much more would we have seen him grow?
Then a 7th with thumb.
Did we see enough in these what turned out to be 10 starts that you're confident moving forward? Did those injuries just throw them off so much that they didn't have it? But O'Connell was always talking about the footwork and the mechanics, and then they decided, we're scrapping that.
There were 2 plays today, too. One in the first quarter and one in the second quarter.
Well, he missed Jefferson in the end zone.
He looks like he's playing backyard football at times. His feet are never set. He tries to sling it too hard to guys. He airmails every other receiver.
Sims catch was like, he saved him with that one.
There are times where it just feels like he's playing backyard football. The one thing I'll say about him, the taunting penalty that he got in the first quarter, which
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You do have to be smart in that, but at the same time, too, in a way, I kind of liked it because it showed me that the kid's playing at least with a little bit of confidence.
No, you don't understand where you are yet. You can't be sitting there. Come on.
No, I just liked it from.
You don't need to sit there and try to blow up some safety that knows if he lines you up and lights you up, he's getting flagged.
But think about
these quarterbacks. You played the game. Okay, you get flagged. Sorry to cut you off. I'll let you come back. But that safety knows. Like Harrison Smith, he knows if he blows that guy up, it's a flag every time. You got about this much you can hit the quarterback in, and you're not going to get flagged. So then the Packer lets up because he knows he's going out of bounds, and if he crushes him into the bench, that's 15. So then McCarthy decides to be the big guy and step up and throw a shoulder into him, Really? And then stand over him? Come on.
He walked.
What would you
I don't hate
say to a quarterback that did that to you?
I got you next time. That's what I would say. I got you next time, and I'm not letting up next time. I don't think that cornerback let up. I think he wanted to boom him, as J.J. McCarthy would say.
It was in bounds.
Yeah, and J.J. McCarthy, quote, boomed him, as he would say. Like, then the coach, when he talked about it in the Detroit game, when he scored that touchdown, he's like, I want to boom that corner. And the coach like, don't boom anybody. And he did that today. It's like, look, he said after the game, I've never stiff-armed anybody in my life before. So it's like when you get in that game and that adrenaline's flowing and you do something good, and then when you run over somebody, it wasn't that big of a, like, when you watch that tape, it's like, oh, he barely did anything. The guy just fell down. Well, but it's like when you're in the game, you feel like you just knocked him back 20, 30 feet. You're like, what? I just did that. So you step up, you're feeling yourself. It's something you see players do all the time, but quarterbacks typically have a lot more composure, and they don't do that. And so you want to see him not cost his team 15 yards there and settle for a field goal and have a chance to go score a touchdown. Right. So he absolutely cost his team. You expect your quarterback to be better in that situation, but am I mad at him for having and playing with a little personality because all the negative narratives around him? Absolutely not.
No, you gotta know when
Agreed.
To step up. And I'll write it off as a rookie, first time doing it, whatever, but still, it was not intelligent. Okay, go back to your point because I cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say that, to me, that just shows that he's playing with a little bit of confidence, and he had no confidence earlier in the season. If I'm a teammate of his, I don't. Yeah, it's a bonehead play in the essence that you get flagged for 15 yards, set you back, sure. But at the same time, too, you saw Aaron Jones smiling at him on the sideline, give him a little pat on the head.
Teammates like that.
I want to see you play with a little confidence. Mm-hmm. So, but let's be honest. Yes, at the same time, too, going back to what you were saying about where he's at right now, the last handful of games were better. It was better, but, I mean,
the bar was pretty low to start
Correct.
with, though.
Correct.
Into these.
Correct. And it goes back to the footwork, the mechanics like you were talking about. There are times where I watch him and I'm thinking to myself, he looks like he's playing backyard football at times. I like the moxie of it all, but at the same time, too, this league is too good. The defenses are too good for you to be playing in that way. And that play in the second quarter that just came back to me, I think he faked a pitch, bootlegged around. He probably should have been picked off. But I'm not sure what direction and what the name is in terms of who the other quarterback that is going to be coming in here. Max Brosmer doesn't look like he's going to be the answer. I think Max Brosmer, for his career trajectory, if Max Brosmer can establish himself as a quality backup in the league, I think there's nothing to be ashamed of over that. I think that would be just fine. But he can't be the backup, the primary backup next year. There needs to be a different option.
You need a guy. You need, like Pierre said, you need someone who's fully confident in themselves that they can come in and win the job, because the best thing for your team is competition, and it's no shortage at the quarterback position. You want him not to look over his shoulder per se, but you want him to know, if I have a bad practice, coach is going to look at this film, and there's a good chance that I may not start, so I need to bring it every single day. I think that only helps everyone around them.
And don't bring in Russell Wilson.
No.
That train is
how about Aaron Rodgers? He's done again.
He has made it sound like this is his last go-around. Now, if Kevin O'Connell, if they expressed interest in Aaron Rodgers, I wonder if Aaron would think about it. I really do. I wonder if Aaron would think about it. But
based on what he said after that Steelers game and him wanting to be here and them basically not signing him, I think he would absolutely entertain it.
I think he would entertain it too, but the question is what Aaron Rodgers am I getting? Now he's going to be, 43?
I don't think that's a good move for the Vikings.
Yeah, I would have done it this year. I don't know if I'm doing it next year.
I don't think he's a good locker room fit. I think that's one quarterback.
He was fine in Pittsburgh. We didn't hear anything.
Yeah, but he was throwing teammates under the bus, talking about their missing film meetings, running wrong routes, not getting his checks. It's just like it's too much. It's too much. It's like you
be on time for the meeting.
Well,
it's not hard.
The thing that Ahmad mentioned too, I actually do want J.J. McCarthy looking over his shoulder. I know that's not a great way to inspire confidence in a young quarterback, but every single person in this organization right now needs to be feeling the heat, including the general manager and including the head coach, who, oh, by the way, signed extensions earlier in the offseason. So they're going to be here.
Because we would be having a much different conversation about what happens this offseason had they not signed those extensions. But I think the extensions take it off the table that the Wolves are willing to eat whatever kind of money they put on the table to pay those guys, and then turn around and go
And that
pay
comes out of
somebody
their
else.
salary.
Well,
Yeah,
quite
that's not
simply, and quite simply, they need to be feeling the heat because it's been 4 years of this regime. How many playoff wins do they have?
None. 2 appearances, 0 wins.
There you go.
I think Kwesi's on the hot seat more than Kevin O'Connell because I think sometimes, like, yes, I think
I would agree with
what
that.
people will
Yep.
say is Kevin O'Connell has just as much say in who they sign during free agency as Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. But here's my thing. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's job is to put this team together and give Kevin O'Connell the best chance to win. I don't think he's done that since he's been here, and I think Kevin O'Connell has made chicken salad out of chicken poop, and he's done really well the last couple of
Okay,
years.
but what I could say is then why is the defense flourishing with their free agent selections?
Because they're hitting good. Because Flores has a lot to say too.
Yes, because here's what I see happen. Again, this is just conjecture. Flores comes in, slides Kwesi a list. Here's who I want.
That's what he
O'Connell
does, yep.
picks a list. Here's who I want.
Mm-hmm.
So if you compare the free agents that have come in, both submitting, I'm assuming both have a pretty good say in what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And Kwesi's job is to get him in. Rob Brzezinski's job is to get him under the salary cap. I would say Flores has killed it with his free agents and what he has gone out. You talked about needing a new center. Well, we thought we had the piece,
And Ryan
right?
Kelly, yeah.
Right. They spent a ton of money on that guy.
2 years, $18 million.
And Will Fry is that right guard.
5 years,
Yeah,
$88 million.
At least he played every game.
Yeah,
Was
He did.
there.
And he got better at the end of the season.
Right. But you look at the other situation, right, where everybody, where are the two unsung heroes? Defense. Flores took these undrafted guys, said, look, this is how I want to use you. Or we were drafted late, and then we use you this way.
I wouldn't say Allen and Hargrave are home runs, but I think that it's also maybe you give Kwesi a little credit in signing a Jalen Redmond, who's an undrafted free agent, came over from XFL.
The Arlington Renegades.
Yep. And then Levi Drake Rodriguez. I think, give a
Right,
little
but
credit.
who do you think put those lists? Okay, so yeah, Flores has got 2 misses with the interior signings. Those guys didn't deliver what they wanted. And for some reason, there was some reason why they didn't like Harrison Phillips. There has to be something there now that you go back and look at it because one, okay, they paid part of his salary to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So there was obviously a deficiency in his game that they didn't like. Flores didn't like
I think it was,
what he
I
get
think
out
was
of it.
financially. I think they were going to be able to save a little bit of money, give him a chance to play meaningful snaps because the snaps were going to get cut in half because of the guys that they just paid
Well,
a lot
right,
of
but
money
I'm
to.
saying before the season even started, when they targeted that as a position of need, right? And that's
Yeah.
why they went out and got those 2 guys and made the switch. Same with the offensive line. At the end of last year, that was priority 1. Both coaches said we need to get bigger on the lines, and they tried to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, you kind of stumping me here.
No, I'm not trying to burn you or anything. I'm just trying to say that I'm just trying to think of what they were thinking as they went through this. We're not granted, we're not sitting at the player personnel table and going like, oh, this is you really wanted that guy?
Well,
We don't know that. I'm just trying to figure out what you think they were maybe thinking when they were going through this.
Well, I
That's
don't
all.
hate the approach. The approach in the the trenches. Please beef up both sides of the line as much as you possibly can. Please. It's just swing and a miss. It was just a swing and a miss.
Getting guys on the defensive side past their prime.
Yeah. It was just a swing and a miss. And I applauded the Jonathan Allen signing in the offseason.
too.
Even though I knew it was a guy who was past his prime, I still thought there was enough good football left in Jonathan Allen for him to be a difference maker on this team in this scheme. It didn't work out that way. I mean, we just talked about Jalen Redmond earlier, but Jalen Redmond, every time he's on the field, the guy seems to find a way to make a play.
Wreaking havoc.
And he's getting paid, what, a quarter of the price?
Yeah.
A fraction of what.
So, yeah, I think and this is where I will give Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah some grace because before this offseason, the free agency classes that he had signed had been home run after home run after home run. The draft is where he's obviously gotten a lot of criticism, and rightfully so. But before this latest free agency class, before this offseason, the free agency class that he has had in the previous 3 seasons have been good. Not just good, up to great with some of the guys that he's brought in here. So it's the first time in his regime that it's been a swing and a miss.
I think the problem with Kwesi, though, is you're being too reliant on the free agency to go out and sign guys, because when you have to sign guys, you're going to have to overpay for them because they're either really, really good in their prime or they're just a little bit past their prime, but they still hold a high dollar amount because of the value of that position. If you can just draft, the free agency period should be able to complement your draft picks that you've been developing
100%,
and maturing, and you go add to your football team. You don't use the free agency to build your football team. That's a recipe for disaster, because if they do come in and perform, now you got to pay them a lot more to keep them. Whereas if you get these guys that you draft and you do a good job of scouting and developing, you got guys under salary cap control for 4 seasons. And that's what you're seeing in Jalen Redmond. That's what you're seeing in Levi Drake Rodriguez and things like that. So I think Kwesi has to do a better job. I think he alone is hindering the growth of this team because he's not drafting guys that they can count on. You look at the number of draft picks that they've had in his 3 to 4 years here, a majority of those guys are gone. Right. The only 2 players who are around from his first draft class, Jalen Naylor, Ty Chandler. Neither one of them play extremely meaningful minutes. Then the second draft class, Jordan Addison. All right, cool. Like, who else after that? Levi, was he in that draft class?
Levi was a 7th rounder, if I'm not
he was
mistaken.
in that second draft class. Yeah. And then Dallas Turner, J.J. McCarthy, and then who else did they draft after those 2 guys? You don't even remember. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you look at the good teams around.
That was this year.
He barely played wide receiver this year. Right. He was a special teamer. So you look at the successful teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. I love to use Howie Roseman as an example, but he drafts really well every year. Then he makes great trades during the season and during the offseason, and then makes great free agent acquisitions. And that's why the Philadelphia Eagles are competitive year in and year out with not an elite quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And so I think it all starts with Kwesi Adolphus-Mensah. He has to draft better, and the Vikings have a ton of draft picks in the first 5 rounds this year. They have to hit home runs, and you can't just say, well, I'm going to go out and go spend $200 million in free agency, because that may not work. You can't be reliable. It's like the transfer portal in college. You have to still recruit and develop high school talent. You just can't rely on the portal, or you're going to spend a ridiculous amount of money every year, and sometimes you may spend money where it's not warranted.
All right, last thing we got to get to before we move to the offseason, and I thought this would have been priority 1, Brian Flores. How critical is it for the Vikings to keep him here?
It's the biggest thing they have to do.
That's priority 1, right?
It's the biggest thing they have to do.
Well, we talked about it a little bit earlier on this podcast, earlier in the season. The only thing that's keeping him between him and another head coaching job is the lawsuit. But I said it on here. I am much more optimistic that he'll be a head coach again than the both of you. We talked about this earlier this season. I definitely think he will be a head coach again this season, or excuse me, in the future. But the Vikings may be benefiting because this lawsuit's still not settled. Mm-hmm. The Vikings may be benefiting from this,
and I think Brian is stubborn enough to say, well, we'll give you the head coach if you settle this out of court with the NFL, and he'll probably say, nope.
Well, and it's up to him.
That brief still stays filed.
It's up to him, and that's up to him. He has to decide what is worth what and what.
Okay, what does it mean to this team if he walks away? Let's not
disaster.
Get into the.
Oh well, I mean, listen, it's not going to be good. That's for sure. You're going to have a hard time replacing him. I know there's a lot of good coordinators out there that can come in and have their stamp on the team and mold the team the way they can. But I mean, just look at the track record. It's really, really tough to replace a guy like him. The question is, does Brian Flores succeed as a head coach the second time around? Sometimes you get a guy who the first time around maybe wasn't in a good situation or didn't do things the way, looking back on it now, maybe he has some regrets of how he did it. Sometimes when you get a guy the second time around, that's when you find your guy. And I have a strong feeling that could be the situation with Brian Flores, whoever gets him, if he becomes head coach.
One, I think he has earned the right to be a head coach.
Absolutely.
Again. I think he has the talent and the skill to be a head coach. But like I said before, that ongoing litigation, the fact that this lawsuit is still open, the way the NFL colludes, especially you're talking about you're suing a franchise for racial discrimination and basically saying the Rooney Rule is garbage and all this stuff. Like, that's a direct shot at all the owners in the NFL. So I think that's just the one hurdle that he has to clear. And like kind of Pierre, it's like, what's more important to you? Do you want to blaze a trail that opens up the pathway for more minority coaches, more black coaches to get head coaching opportunities, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator opportunities? Or do you want to say, you know what? it's time for me to go be a head coach and, implement my flag in the NFL head coaching ranks and show how good I can be the second go around. He has to ask himself, which is more important? Is it being a head coach, or is it creating a path for other people that look like you for when you're done? I think that's what he has to come to. But to wrap this up real quick, because I know Pierre has something to say.
No.
If he leaves, this is atrocious, because now you have to go out and go get players that fit the new defensive coordinator scheme. That means that all the players that Kwesi did a good job bringing in that excelled in Brian Flores' scheme, they may not excel in a whoever scheme that comes in. So now you got to revamp the strongest unit on your team. And I think that's why it's essential for them to retain Brian Flores if he doesn't become a head coach and keep his defense intact. Then all you got to do is worry about a couple pieces defensively, safety, maybe if Harrison Smith doesn't come back, maybe corner. You still got Isaiah Rodgers and Byron Murphy, and then you just go get a defensive lineman. You got your linebackers. Then you worry about offense. So I think it is huge for them to be able to keep Brian Flores if they want to go to the playoffs next year.
And that's why I want to know, and I think the most important question to Brian Flores is what's most important to you, like we were just saying. Because and I don't get me wrong, I'm not going to stand up here and call Brian Flores a hypocrite, but whether he's a defensive coordinator or whether he's a head coach, he's still collecting a check from the same league, the league that he is suing. So what's the difference? Like, you want to be a defensive coordinator or and be stubborn about the lawsuit, which I get is important to you, and I get it's an important cause, and I would not blame you whatsoever if you dug your heels in the sand and said, no, this cause is important to me, I have no problem with it. But you're still collecting a check, whether you're a head coach or a defensive coordinator, you're collecting a check from the same league. What's the difference? You're suing the league. So, in my opinion, you might as well go be a head coach then. I know that would require you to dismiss the lawsuit or find some sort of way to settle it. But listen, you're still collecting a check from the same league. Let's be honest about it.
If I had to guess, and I don't know Brian that well, I would guess that he would say, I'll stay as a defensive coordinator. That lawsuit stays because of what you said, the pathways that he can open for so many people for years to come. I think that would mean more to him if he did something like that changed the way this league hires people, interviews people, and allows everyone to be in positions of power in this league. If he could do that or be a head coach, I think he would take the route to change the league.
Very tough position to be in.
It is.
I certainly wouldn't want to be in his shoes for that. But whatever he decides to do.
But just the way he has conducted himself to this point, I could see him saying, you know what? Fine.
He's immensely
Let's see
talented.
where this goes.
For the Vikings' sake, they need him back.
Because when you were going against the Shield, very few survive.
I would hate for him to be typecasted too. Like, well, we love you, but even if he doesn't stay with the Vikings, we love you. We think you're talented, but we only want you to be our defensive coordinator.
Right. I mean, at Dallas, they're kicking up some dust right now, saying that they're interested. Or
saw a rumor today
to get him.
That Brady in Vegas may try and use his Patriot way and get Flores as head coach and who was it for the defensive coordinator?
They're going to dump Pete already?
Yeah, Pete Carroll. They said there's talks about that already. But yeah, I just saw that rumor on social media right before I came out here, and I'm like, ooh, wouldn't that be something?
All right, your comments are very lively. We love reading them. If you just stumbled upon this, we will probably conduct some irregular when news leads us to get back together again, but.
Don't worry, I got another podcast, the H&H podcast.
Oh, right here. Look at,
the H&H
can we pan
podcast.
over? Right here, he's got it on the pan. You got a pan. Right here,
So we talk about the Vikings
there
weekly on that. We talk about the Timberwolves. You guys are actually going to be guests on that podcast because when we get into the Timberwolves season, I'm going to need some expertise. When we get into the Twins and WoW, I'm going to need some expertise here. And so so that is a podcast. If you guys still want more of a Vikings fix, I'm sure we'll be talking about the playoffs, the Vikings weekly on there. So H&H podcast located the same place that this podcast is posted.
Well, where can we find the H&H podcast?
Fox9.com, Fox Local, the Fox 9 YouTube channel, Apple, and Spotify.
All right. And if you'd like to talk to Pierre during the off season via X, where can they find you?
They can. It's the off season. You can't talk to me. But if you insist, you can find me on Twitter at the Nouj Fox9, or I should say X. It's been X long enough now. I should start calling it by the right name. At the Nouj Fox9.
All right, that'll do it. Vikings victorious.
You don't want to find. You don't want to know where they can
Ahmad
find
Hicks
Ahmad.
TV.
There you go.
Oh, well,
I know that
You
one.
got to get it out there. You got to get it out there.
Ahmad,
Still.
he's got his own podcast. He needs no more publicity.
God.
It will be guests.
It's not that big.
We'll be guests.
I'm excited.
Maybe.
I'm excited to be a guest.
Cameo.
Yeah.
But keep your answers short.
All right, I'll do that.
They've got more time to
I'll do
talk,
that, I'll do
especially
that.
Lake. He
I'll
just
do
keeps
that.
talking all the time. All right, that'll do it for us. Vikings victorious 63. They win 5 straight. Yeah.
Woohoo! Skull.